Let's go!
Keep going, keep putting my foot on the gas.
Barion Brown! Is he the missing firecracker for this LSU offense? Are you freaking kidding me? This is a 3-year producer at Kentucky. We will do like we do with every single prospect, break down the positives, the negatives, and all of that in between. Now, believe it or not, on this play, there was a minor negative, and we'll get to that in just a second. So one thing I really like about Barion Brown is the 3-year producer thing. As a true freshman, he was very freaking good. Now, what's funny about this is his best game actually came at home versus Kentucky, but it wasn't this game. It was actually his true freshman game when he went for 145 yards versus a national championship Bulldogs defense. And here was that game. Now, I understand a lot of you are like, well, what does that mean? All right, we care about what happened lately. Well, that's true. We should put extra weight on what you have done, obviously, in your very most immediate season. But to do this as a true freshman means you have raw talent. One thing I like about Brown, his best games came versus the best team. So we mentioned best freshman game versus national championship Georgia. Best sophomore game versus top 10 nationally ranked defense Clemson. And you see here, he can give you something as a possession move the chain receiver. Of course, as you guys saw in the beginning, a lot of reverses gadgets, right? We obviously did a lot of this with Xavier Thomas last year. Quick handoffs, little jet sweep tosses, quick pitches, quick whatever. He turns a corner, and he's got some alpha mentality. Now, I will say, he can't get a little overboard with the trash talk. He will border on the line of a flag, but the dude is a playmaker. And then, obviously, in the same game, had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So he had a receiving touchdown, rushing touchdown, and kickoff return touchdown all in the same game. And the simple truth is he is the best kickoff return guy maybe since Trendon Holiday. Look, every time he touches a football in the kick return game, it can be a house call. And this was not an easy kickoff return. Obviously, you have to make a guy miss who had outside leverage on the blocker. Doesn't matter. He has that speed that eliminates angles. So he was able to house this one. And, man, it is a huge benefit to LSU special teams now that they have 3 what I would consider to be very good return guys in Xavier Thomas, Aaron Anderson, but Barion Brown is definitely the best of the 3. So if he was so potent as a freshman and a sophomore, why did we see a regression in receiving statistics as a year 3 junior? Well, a lot of it was quarterback play, right? Brock Vandegrift is not as good as Leary, and Leary, of course, isn't as good as Will Levis, but part of it also is Dane Key, right? Barion Brown was on an offense with another really, really, really good player in Key. But I do want to point out that, like the last 2 seasons, his best game this year came against the team I felt was the best on Kentucky's schedule, which was Ole Miss. And this was the biggest catch, arguably, in the SEC this season. 4th and 7. Yes, a small little push-off, but he made this play. And, of course, Kentucky would go on to score the game-winning touchdown. Not only did he make this play, he cuts back on a dime and is able to turn this into an even more explosive gain. So, once again, I know that sounds like hyperbole, but this ended up being the biggest upset in the SEC this year. And if this play wasn't made, it never would have happened, and Ole Miss probably is in the playoffs. So, man, this guy still did something. He still showed some glimpses of brilliance, and obviously this Kentucky team was just not really all that great. So, man, I like him as a kickoff returner. Now, this obviously is a return that he probably doesn't want to see the light of day because it was the kicker who made the touchdown saver here. But, man, you see the potential. Now, let's break this down. He's got some nuance to his game. So, You're showing a play action fake right here, and you'll see this is actually really well designed by Bush Hamdan, their offensive coordinator. Jet sweep motion here. This backside safety's run responsibility is this B gap. So what you're showing here with the running back to the right side is a potential run to the left. But watch what Barion Brown does. He sells that he is going to be blocking the safety, and Marshall, number 3 right here, is thinking, hey, I got to help fit this run as well. But watch what Barion Brown does. Off the play action, and it's actually a flea flicker here, he's running behind the safety. Now, once again, this was more so play design, if anything, that got him open here. But you do see the speed, right? You do see him making these deep catches, kind of like our Nick Anderson film study. Even though some of these touchdown catches are wide open, at least he's comfortable making these deep plays. And by the way, Nick Anderson film study floating in the top right corner of your screen. And Brown has such elite speed, and even though his route running isn't the absolute cleanest, man, you can see right here, head down, selling vertical versus Everett, who is a decent corner. And watch this, he turns him around on this deep out, okay? And man, it's just nasty what his speed can do to a defense. And once again, his route running is going to hopefully get even better. And this was a piece of the LSU offense that I felt was missing. The quick wide receiver screen game, right? He is really, really, really good at these types of plays. Now, you get a good block, but notice he catches his football right in stride and gets vertical. You do get really, really, really good blocking, and he does a good job reading these blocks and picking up yards after contact, okay? Now, I will say I feel when I've watched him that there are instances where he can turn something a little bit more special than it actually is. So let's take a look at this play. 7 right here. I think this is Barron or Muhammad, either one. These Texas DBs were one of the biggest, not one of the biggest surprises in the SEC, but no one thought that they would be as good as they are, and they were very, very, very good, and they had injuries. So on this second and Louisville here, I probably shouldn't use Louisville. That's Kentucky's main rival. There's going to be some Wildcat fans. What's a small town in Kentucky? Second and Frankfurt. Is that's a Kentucky town? Either way, it's a long piece of yardage here. He's able to get behind this corner here, make this catch, but while he did have to wait on it, once again, if he is hit in stride, he's probably housing this. I do think in this spot, he could have done more to make him miss and get vertical, especially if you're down by 17, right? Instead, he just runs directly out of bounds. How about Barion Brown as a blocker? It's not really what he does, right? Nick Anderson, I think, is the better blocker of the guys that they've brought in. As you can see, he kind of took this blocking play off, which I'm actually okay with to a certain extent, because a lot of the plays that they used with him in the run game was him just running vertically, which I actually prefer to do with a speed receiver, because if you're running vertically, you're taking a corner out of the box and potentially taking a safety out of the box. So this really isn't too important for a player like him, but you would like to see him be an overall better blocker. It's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, though. And here's another one. Now, once again, he does have some good blocking reps, and I prefer to use him as a clear-out player on run plays anyway. And by clear-out, I mean just run vertical. But right here, obviously, this is, it just is a whiff. All right, so the biggest negative, and it wasn't as bad this past season, but it is something, are the drops and the fumbles. So before the season, 11 drops and 3 lost fumbles. And you saw all the amazing things he did in this Clemson game. In fact, after this mistake, he would score another touchdown. But I want you to see this, man. The ball security here has to be better. It wasn't like this was some unfreaking believably strong punch. We need you to be able to hold on to this rock, and this ended up giving Clemson the lead. Here was one in 2023 versus Kentucky, obviously back at the end zone, so there's no need to be worried about running after the catch. Just catch the football, and it was dropped, and they had to kick a field goal. Alrighty, so this is from this season, obviously the same competition, and kind of like that Clemson mistake, Barion Brown went off in this game. Obviously, he had a kickoff return for a touchdown in this game. We already saw the touchdown he had. Kentucky's running a dagger-ish concept of vertical here and a post dig-ish behind it. And you'll see that Brock Vandagriff makes a really good throw in a pocket, 2-minute drill. And this is not the easiest catch. This ball's humming, but it goes right through him, and it's a pick going the other way.
Hey. That was good. Thanks, guys. Oh, thank you.
Look at Barion Brown being a gentleman, helping her up. You love to see it. Hopefully we see more of that from Brown. Look, are there some concerning things in this talent evaluation? Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. I mean, I was blown away at how much Dane Key outproduced Barion Brown. Now, one thing I will include is Key did have a game and a half on Brown as Barion missed his first game of the year after a small injury versus Tennessee. But it is interesting because as year one true freshman, Brown easily outproduced Key. Then last year, in year two, Brown was the third highest producing player. And then last year, of course, was the number 2 receiver. But Jamori Macklin actually challenged Barion Brown as the number 2 overall option in this offense. Now, how does this fit in with LSU? Well, the first thing, obviously, special teams. He obviously outproduced basically everyone in the SEC in terms of returns over the past couple of seasons. So that is an absolute massive positive. I understand Aaron Anderson or return a kick for a touchdown last season, but Barion Brown needs to be the guy. He is one of the best kickoff return artists I think I've ever seen in the SEC. But there's plays like this where, you're getting this screen right here, you get a good block, and I need this tackle to be broken, right? Now, obviously, it was a good trip-up shoestring, but, man, if you're breaking this with your speed, I think he's gone. I think he's beating him. So, like we said earlier, there were some yards left on the field when I watched him, right? A little to go down easy, if you will. Now, this overall is a massive positive, and I do want to share something that will be quite jarring and why it's very misleading just to look at raw statistics. This was a dreadful Kentucky offense this season with some very inconsistent offensive line play, but most notably inexperienced quarterback play. In Barion Brown's first 2 seasons, he played with Leary, who played a lot of snaps, and obviously Will Levis, who played a lot of snaps. Something else is Kentucky under Mark Stoops has always been a run-based school, right? Barion Brown's true freshman season, Chris Rodriguez. Last season, Ray Davis. So both of those running backs, of course, are both doing really nice things in the NFL. So, look, this has always been a run-first offense. And something else as far as being bullish on Barion Brown for LSU is the overall raw snap total. So LSU ran 884 plays this season, which is really on the high side, where Kentucky ran 800, which is somewhat about normal, right? It's somewhat high. But where it gets crazy are the raw pass attempts. So Kentucky this past season was bottom 4 in the SEC in raw pass attempts in the low 300s, where LSU threw the football 500 times. Now, that number, of course, is very, very, very high, and that is what will excite Barion Brown. Brock Vandagriff was kind of a runner, right? Garrett Nussmeier loves to throw the freaking football. So you go from where you were at Kentucky to an offense that had 180 more passing attempts and 84 more total snaps. You are going to have an unfreaking believable productive season if you could beat out the other receivers in the room. So that's part of why Barion Brown made this move, because you go to a quarterback that is a wide receiver's dream, one that doesn't scramble and one that looks to actually throw the football. Are you concerned at all about this? I'm not. I think this is going to be really good. And the thing is, with Aaron Anderson back, and then, of course, also bringing Nick Anderson, he doesn't have to be the guy, right? This can still be a very successful transfer if he, like these last couple of seasons, is a number 2-ish guy. So as far as field stretching, that's also going to potentially help out our running game as well. So big get for LSU. And before this even started going, I had mentioned on a live stream that Barion Brown would be a receiver that I would definitely go after in the portal, and it happened. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So, big game experience, best games versus really good teams during his career. This is a guy that has a lose it or use it. I didn't say that smoothly at all. He has one more year of eligibility to make it happen. Or does he? So, on Patreon, it's kind of the same thing we talked about with Jack Pyburn and Mansour Delane. You have to go listen to the Patreon episode 1. It's a good way to support us, but it allows me to dive even deeper on more subjects. Go down below and you will listen to a show that I think will open your eyes on some of the risk of the transfer portal. So make sure you check it out. And every new patron gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail. And it's Power Hour LSU. Boom! Thank you guys for being flexible with the live stream schedule. Obviously, a lot going on in the Carter studio here. And tonight we are doing some chicken tikka masala. Let's go.